Hello, everyone. I'm Najeeb Baqui, founder and managing director at Tinsley Park, a private equity platform and an advisory firm. Welcome to another episode of Tinsley Park Talks, which is a global networking and leadership platform where we interview industry legends from finance to tech and from policy experts to intellectuals. In these digital interviews, we discuss great ideas around investing, entrepreneurship, solving complex problems, and all of the lessons of life. Today's session is about leading from the core. It's about leadership. Our guest today is a successful entrepreneur. I call him the internet legend of Houston, Jay Steinfeld. Jay Steinfeld, now he sounds like Jerry Seinfeld. We'll get to that maybe later if he's related or not. Was a founder and was the CEO of Blinds.com, the world's #1 online window covering retailer. Bootstrapped in 1996 for just $3,000 from his Bellaire, Texas garage, Blinds.com was acquired by Home Depot in 2014. Jay remained as its CEO and later joined the Home Depot online leadership team. After stepping away from these roles in early 2020, he teaches entrepreneurship at Rice University's Jones Graduate School of Business and has increased his involvement on numerous private company boards and serves as a director of the public company Masonite, which trades on NYSE as the symbol DOOR, D-O-O-R. He also supports numerous charities. Jay is, this is a big one, is an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year and has earned a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Houston Technology Center. Active as an industry speaker on topics including corporate culture, core values, how to scale a startup, and disruption. He has more than 100 published articles and writes a column for Inc.com. He also sings in the same barbershop quartet of which he's been a part of for nearly 50 years. Fascinating. I asked him if he would do a little quartet singing for us, but he said he's not a soloist. So maybe we'll have another episode just talking about that. Jay lives with his wife, Barbara, in Houston, Texas, and has 5 children and 7 grandchildren, whom he proudly refers to as his 7 startups. Jay's book, Lead from the Core, the 4 Principles for Profit and Prosperity, is a Wall Street Journal bestseller. It was published on November 30th, 2021, just a couple of months ago, and is available for purchase now at all usual places, including Amazon. It is my delight today to welcome my special guest, Jay. Jay, welcome to the show.
Najeeb, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. And let's get one thing perfectly clear. You said you have on intellectuals.
Yes.
I'm not an intellectual.
You are, I think you're an entrepreneur. I'm sure you are an investor in 7 of your grandchildren's startup projects, and you will continue to be a board member and all those things. And along the way, I'm sure you'll teach them about some intellectuality, Jay. So I should have added that you're a humble guy as well.
Thank you.
Jay, so how did a tiny company like Blinds.com disrupt Amazon and the big boxes?
Well, we were a startup, and we always thought like a startup. We had an agile mindset. We were not afraid to take chances, small chances, and we iterated every day throughout the day. We were not afraid to take small incremental chances that we knew the downside of that risk was something that we could live with, never feeling like we would do something so large that it could sink the ship. But we knew that any one of them had tremendous upside potential. So we looked at asymmetric risk and said, okay, large upside, small downside, let's just try everything and see what works. And if it works, keep doing it. If it doesn't, just stop. And we were resourceful. We had very little money, which meant that we needed to try things that others maybe thought were stupid or crazy or insane even. And
Sure.
A lot of it actually did work. And we built technology that even Home Depot was unable to do. And it's one of the reasons they ended up buying us.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. We obviously would like to hear more about that, the Home Depot story coming up. maybe it's helpful to understand your upbringing and your journey, kind of what shaped you. How did you end up in that situation where you started blinds.com? Would you like to share that with us?
Sure. I think that I always wanted to be in business. Even in high school, junior high school, I did custom t-shirts with my friend Gary, and there was a need for it, and we satisfied it, and we designed and made and sold the t-shirts. We had no money, neither of us, and that was a way to also make a little extra money. To go to college, my parents didn't have a lot of money, and I don't even remember thinking about asking them, so how am I going to go to college? As I think about it, I think it was just assumed if I want to go to college, I have to pay for it.
Sure.
And it was very matter of fact. It wasn't really, as I'm thinking, we never had that conversation. So I did jobs during the summer and built up enough money, that and getting student loans and working while I was in college, grading papers. The combination of all that, combined with the fact that UT at the time was like $1,500 or $2,000 tuition.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't a lot, but back then it seemed like maybe a lot, especially
Good old days.
He was making nothing. So I always knew I wanted to be in business, and I think what I would do is research things before I actually set out. So I looked at successful business people and asked them, what should I study in college? And almost all of them said, you've got to know numbers, you've got to know finance, you've got to know accounting. So I studied the courses that I hated the most, accounting. And
yeah,
I did not like that job. I worked for KPMG, but it was really a means to an end.
Were you in the audit division or tax? What did you do there?
I was in audit. I mean, auditing is okay, but like part of auditing is counting inventory and
right
oil tankers, and so you're going up on top of these big tankers and measuring how much oil is in these big tanks.
Sure.
And it's lightning and thundering, and you're wondering, am I going to die doing this stuff?
Right.
So, I mean, there was that. But I think really the most formative thing for me was that when I was in college, my mother died of ovarian cancer. She was 46.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
So I started getting an appreciation for the fragility of time. And I married my college sweetheart right out of college. We were 22, 21. And
wow.
Unfortunately, we'd been married 25 years, and she too died of cancer, of breast cancer. She was 47, had 3 children at the time. So these are things that you are formidable and impactful. And those were the things that told me I needed to really figure life out now. How could I be optimistic again? What makes me tick? Existential ideas and introspection were the norm then. And it was only through that I became, I don't know, enlightened, understanding of what motivates me and what motivates others. And generosity became a lot of that. And really my 4 principles that I write about in the book, Lead from the Core, which really is the 4 principles of how we beat Amazon and how we beat Home Depot and Lowe's and everybody in the blinds industry. I mean, we were the #1 online retailer of blinds in the world. We still are, by far. And it was through evolving and experimenting and expressing ourselves and having fun. Those 4 things were what powered us. And what I now realize in retrospect were the reasons that we did beat all those companies, and the way we had our growth was so good, and how we grew 20-25% compound a year and made a lot of money and had fun doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's a tough story. I wasn't aware of that personal setback that you had in your early years. Definitely, feeling empathetic for that. I'm glad that you actually took that setback and transformed it into this existential, can't even say the word, outcome, and taking a big risk. How old were you, if you don't mind me asking, when you founded blinds.com? Was it after your wife's death, or was it before?
No, it was right before.
Okay, got
I
it.
actually went online in 1993. In 1994, Amazon launched, and I saw, hey, there's a company that can sell books online. So
Right.
I wonder if you can sell blinds online. And everybody said that was a stupid idea.
Why
And
blinds, Jay? Why blinds? What's the backstory of
there's
that,
a
real quick?
backstory on blinds, and it can be long, so I'll make it really short.
Okay.
I worked for Meineke Discount Mufflers in the
Okay.
VP of Finance. So you're thinking
Uh-huh.
mufflers and
Yeah,
franchising.
yeah, yeah.
Well, we decided we were great at franchising. We weren't in the muffler business. So we tried to franchise other businesses. And one of the businesses we looked at was the window covering business. Meineke was sold to a British company, and they said, no, we're not franchising. We sell parts, and we want Meineke so we can sell our parts to the Meineke dealers. So they stopped the franchising. I got fired. Everybody pretty much got fired. And then so we decided, hey, we know window coverings. Let's just do that.
Nice. Got it. Got it. So, so Jay, what inspired you to write your book? You mentioned a little bit of, the backstory of the inspiration behind a lot of things. What about the book? Who is it meant for?
Well, when you start a company, you're not always going to be with that company. You're either going to die, or you're going to step away, or you might even get pushed out. You have institutional investors, or there's all sorts of reasons you're not going to be there. And I knew that it was approaching. I'd been there 25 years. I'd pretty much done everything I set out to do, which was amazing. So I wrote the book because I wanted the people at blinds.com to have the true and correct story of what we did to get where we are, and to have those 4 principles so that they would be embedded in them and have the story, the backstory behind them, so the company would live on past me, so I would not be needed anymore. That was the original reason. A second, I realized as I was writing it that, hey, this is going to be great for my kids and my grandkids as a legacy. And then as I started teaching at Rice and at UT and around the country, presenting, I realized some of these lessons were things that they weren't learning in business school, and they weren't even learning on the job. So I expanded the book to cover that as well. And now what I'm hearing is people are applying the book, this ability to provide entrepreneurial tools and a mindset to their own lives, to their own careers, so that they can expand and feel inspired, not to be complacent with their careers, and see what they can actually become, to see how good can they be in how short a period of time there is, which was really what at blinds.com, our mission, our express purpose was to help people become better than what they ever believed possible. Because that's what I'm trying to do for myself, help myself get better than I ever believed possible in as fast a time as I could before I died. And that's the purpose of the book, to help people do that.
That's amazing. Those are all very good core principles and values. So I think you did mention that generosity is a very, very big part of your existence, your background, and at the core, how you feel about day-to-day dealings with whomever your stakeholders are. So I think, and you mentioned a lot of things related to generosity in your book. How does generosity play a part of leadership? If you wanted to share that with our guests, since we're talking about leadership today.
I love that question. I'm glad you asked it. Generosity is not about how much money you pay. I mean, it can be. It's really not about how much you pay. It's about how much you care. It's about whether you respect people, whether you give them a voice, whether you share information with them. As an example, how clear are you with your vision? Are you being generous and explicit about where you're going? Are you sharing that with everybody? Does everybody know? Does everybody know where they fit in? Do they know that they are consequential to that mission, to that vision? Are you helping people understand where their weaknesses are, where their frailties are? There are things that they can do to improve so they can continue on that trajectory. Because if you're not sharing, you're being stingy. You're not being generous. And are you being candid? Are you being truly candid and not sugarcoating things, like saying, oh yeah, you're doing a great job. And you're thinking, well, no, you're not doing a good job. You suck. No, well, here's what you need, in thinking, they don't think like an owner. They're not doing this. They don't take responsibility. Generosity is being absolutely clear and honest with people and let them know how they need to improve. And generosity is also about listening. When they tell you, do they tell you how they're really feeling? Are you really listening? And then what do you do when they tell you about it? It's not generous if they tell you something and you just keep doing what you were doing. I'm wondering when somebody says, you know, I really don't want to be here in 5 years. Would you have that conversation with somebody? Are you just talking about projects, or are you talking about their own career trajectory? Do you ask them, where do you want to be in 5 years? If you want to be somewhere else, the best place for you to be is right here, so I can help you get there. One of the absolute greatest achievements of my career were all the people who are no longer at blinds.com, who are leaving companies. Some big companies, well-funded companies.
I think we know one or two examples.
Well, there's a lot of them, and I don't want to mention one because I'm afraid I'm going to not mention some others. But there's so many examples of people who have grown within the roles within blinds.com or have moved to Home Depot. By the way, a lot of people from Home Depot came to blinds.com because they like the entrepreneurial spirit.
Oh, wow. Really? Before Home Depot bought blinds?
No, afterwards.
Oh, okay. So okay, I got it.
It's like, we've got Home Depot, we've got blinds.com. And a lot of people said, God, those guys are killing it. I love the culture there. I love what they're doing. People are they're having fun. How is that possible? They're achieving all this stuff and they're having so much fun. And then a lot of people would move from Atlanta to Houston. It was great.
Oh, wow. I know a friend that works there who's been there for a long time. So
yeah. In Atlanta?
No, in Houston.
Oh, at blinds.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Is your finance guy? Or he was.
Zahid.
Zahid. Shout out to Zahid Rahman.
Yeah, I know him very well. He's great.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think generosity is about caring about people. And when you want to do something significant, you have to help people feel significant.
Absolutely.
That's all these things are about, just bringing respect into the workplace.
Did you say respect?
I said respect.
Yes. That was like the word that was kind of just waiting in the top of my tongue, because respect is all those things that you mentioned. One of the biggest, I believe one of the biggest forms of respect is when you listen to someone, like genuinely listen, not listen so it's your turn to like talk, but actually take in what the person is saying and just absorb it and then give them feedback. That's one of the biggest forms of respect you can give. And
just asking. Most people don't even ask. You have your one-to-one meetings and you just talk about projects.
Right.
Say, how are you doing on this project? Is it red, green, yellow?
Right.
Or how about saying, how are you doing? What's going on in your life? What do you want?
Right.
Do you want to move up to that next level, or you want to be in another department? What can I do to help you continue to become better than you ever believed possible? This is the kind of organization that we have. And this is why I'm speaking so much and doing podcasts, because I believe that in business, people do not have to be a jerk.
Right.
It's that simple. People can be nice, people can be gracious, people can be respectful, and people can be generous. And look, that doesn't mean that you don't pay people a lot.
Right.
That's not the primary driver. What's wrong with paying somebody $5 million to do a sales job if they bring in $20 million.
Right.
So it's not about what is the least amount I can get away with. It's what's the most amount I can do for my people, for my customers, and it still makes sense long-term for the business. Flip it around and not think about being stingy, but being generous. And I think your whole paradigm is going to change. And by the way, when people feel that, and because they know it's authentic, they're going to stay. And when they stay, your turnover is lower, your employment expenses are lower. You can invest more in people because you know they're going to stay. One of the reasons companies don't invest in their people with personal development programs is because they don't think they're going to stay, or they think they're going to be elevated to the point where they can leave.
Right.
Well, that's okay. But if you're really good and you're attentive and respectful, you don't have to worry about that. They will stay.
Right.
It's great resignation where people are leaving. Why don't you just start respecting your people and listening to them and giving them a voice in decision making? These are just basic things of humanity. That's all I'm saying. Not an intellectual, just, I think, logic.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, those are very, very deep topics. And I, in my career, I've seen enough of the different gradients of leadership. I started a humble little company myself a few years ago, and I work with teams, and I have interns now from great universities, and I try to treat them like like how I would want to be treated when I was their age, and kind of help them navigate through this crazy world. One of the things you mentioned was you don't have to be a jerk to be a boss or a leader. You hear about that more often in the financial world, like the Wall Street world, kind of where I started my career, and I've always been in finance. What people don't talk about or pay attention to are there are a lot of good people in finance as well that are doing amazing things, not just with money, but really caring about certain causes and making a difference. You don't hear about them in the news because the news always focuses on the negative stuff, right? Because that's what sells.
Well, what's interesting is my daughter, Esther, who worked for me for 5 years, felt the same way you do. And she started a website called notallceosarjerks.com.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
So funny. Well, we'll move on to the next question. So share with us, what was it like going from owning your own business, this entrepreneurial business, and then getting conjoined with this behemoth Home Depot?
Yeah.
How was that transition?
Well, there were amazing things, and there were some amazing things.
Okay, love to hear.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Well, the first thing, let me just say that I had a lot of things that I wanted to do. I had this vision of applying our technology platform to multiple product categories way before Home Depot, 15, 20 years ago. And it was only because of Home Depot that we were able to take that platform and move it into multiple categories, such as decks, storm doors, vanity tops, countertops. There's all sorts of other sheds, all custom products. So it was great because we thought of ourselves as like Tony Stark.
Sure.
And the Home Depot was Jarvis in the suit, and together we were Iron Man. We could break up stuff. And that's what we felt. We were both better as a result of the other. It was awesome. Now, of course, there was hierarchy, there was bureaucracy, there was getting allocation of capital. All that stuff took way, way longer than we're used to. We make a decision, we prioritize it, get the money, go. So that was frustrating for sure, but our core values never changed. Home Depot was smart enough to say they're doing amazing things because of their core values. And therefore, we need to make sure we don't stomp on them and just disintegrate all the great stuff that made them what they are. Now, a lot of times you might do something and have these unintended consequences that they just didn't understand. Like we're going to change your compensation program. No, you're not, because this was part of our secret sauce. It was a variable compensation program. And now they're looking at it and they're going, wow, we need to put that in our Home Depot. And officers from all over the country were coming to us to figure that out. But for the most part, we were able to do things we never could have done before. And because we were so motivated to do these things, and because Home Depot was smart enough to allow us to maintain our autonomy and our culture, and we didn't get so frustrated to allow their culture, which did care about their associates, but they were first about organizational efficiency, and we were first about people. As long as we appreciated the other's superpower and didn't try to change it, because you can't change it,
right?
It's fine. And we just appreciated each other's love language. Our love languages were different, and we didn't try to change it.
Great. Was it quality of time or physical touch?
Oh yeah, that's Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. That's the reference I'm making.
Great. No, that sounds great. That sounds like a seamless consolidation. Seems like you got best of both worlds, entrepreneurial, value-centric organization, blinds.com, connecting with a behemoth that gives you the economies of scale. Congratulations.
Thank you. I wouldn't call it seamless.
Right. No, I guess not. Yeah. It's like saying you're an overnight success after, decades of trying and failing, correct?
Yeah. In the book, there's all sorts of things that were not good, but what we did to allay those problems and mitigate the situation, overcome them. But the book is not just look how great we are. It's look at all the things and the dilemmas and the hardship and the anxiety we had and the processes that we use and the thoughts that we had and the strategies and tactics for overcoming them.
Yeah, no, that's very important. Because life is never a straight arrow. What should founders ask themselves before they go sell their business?
Before they sell their business? There's a few things.
Or Jay, maybe let me try to rephrase that. Sell their business or raise capital to grow their business with a partner coming in, whether it's a financial partner like a private equity firm or a venture capital firm or a strategic. Just generally speaking, what should their mindset be just bringing on an investor and a new platform? So
not selling the business, because that's a different question.
Okay. Yeah.
Who should you bring in as a partner?
I guess like selling partially, not all the way, not 100% of your business, but like 51 or
another partner, whether they be financial or otherwise.
Right.
It's really alignment. There has to be alignment. If there's not alignment, it doesn't matter how much money they give. In fact, it's probably going to make it worse, because if you get a lot of money from somebody and they've got control and you're not aligned, you're not going to have fun. It's going to be miserable. Correct. And you'll probably end up getting kicked out.
Right.
Make sure that you are aligned and that you are very clear and honest and candid with where you want to go, and see where they want to go and where they see the upside potential and where they see the red flags and the things that they believe need to be overcome. And chances are the things that anyone from the outside is seeing are things that you now can see as well. And if you're honest with yourself, which is hard to do, when you say evolve continuously, right, it requires you to look at the mirror and say, you know what, I need to evolve in this way. And not everybody can do that. It's harder than it sounds.
No, absolutely.
Once you're told that, then it's up to you. And really, if you're investing in a company and the CEO is sounding pretty dogmatic about what they think needs to be done and they're not listening, I wouldn't invest in them. That's one of the things that I look at first. Is the CEO open to change? Is the CEO going to listen to advice and thoughtfully think about it and maybe not do everything? In fact, it's your company, CEO, founder, but at least think about it and give it a shot as to whether it really is something that you want to pursue, and have a thoughtful, honest, candid discussion about it. And it may even things that you've tried before, but don't just say no. Don't be dogmatic. Be open. Both have to be open and both have to be honest about where you're going. I think that's the key, is alignment.
Sure. No, absolutely. Were there anything you did as you're about to partner up with Home Depot, or however you want to define that that relationship, in terms of making sure that the partnership was successful and your core values stayed intact? What were some of the steps you took to be mindfully prepared for these things to look forward to?
Well, we had the kind of candid discussion that I was just talking about, and they believed that core values that we had were sacrosanct and should not be changed. So that was a good foundation. I also took a few tips from the Pixar Disney merger.
Really? Wow. Tell us about that.
Who's the CEO of Pixar, and you can read about it in the book Creativity Inc., which I mentioned in my book. What they did is they said, we don't want our culture to change either, and we don't want Disney to crush us. So what they did is they came up with a list of things that they believed were really important to the culture, like titles, like compensation, like where they're working, like what the hours, what the office was going to be, all the things that Ed Catmull and his team believed were important to maintain that culture. And they had call it a memo of understanding. I don't know how legally binding it was. It might have been very, but we did the same thing with Home Depot. We had a list of things that we believed were important, and we set those things out, and we agreed to those up front so that we were aligned as to where we were going. Look, we dissolved our corporate name, Global Custom Commerce Inc. Shortly after the merger. Yet we maintained Global Custom Commerce as the name of our company, even though we had merged into Home Depot, because we knew the name was important. We wanted to maintain autonomy, and having a name for us as opposed to the Houston branch or something like that was important. Right. I maintained my CEO's title. We had senior directors, we had vice presidents, and that was something that was just within our own little division, but it was important to do that. We had our own compensation plan. We integrated where it made sense. We're in finance and HR, but in the way we operated, we maintained that completely differently. We were using agile development probably 15, 20 years ago, the way we developed software, even the way we developed the whole company and the way we thought. And that was different. So we wanted to make sure the way we did projects remained. So all those types of things we did. Home Depot says they have 8 core values, and they're fine, very good core values. Mm-hmm. Entrepreneurial spirit, taking care of people, respect, shareholder value. I mean, how could you not agree with that? But those were not our core values. So when they said, now that you're with Home Depot, you have 8 core values, we said, no, those are not our core values. The values that were core to us are authentic and drivers of our success. Evolve continuously, experiment without fear, express ourselves, and enjoy the ride. The 4 E's that I talk about in the book. Right. We wake up and that's what we do. We don't aspire to do those things that are Home Depot's. As much as we agree with them, they're just not our personal intrinsic DNA drivers. This is how we wake up and we experiment. We wake up and we evolve all day, throughout the day. We're always trying to get better or help everybody around us get better. That's what we do. So yeah, we respect people, but that's like table stakes. Of course we respect people, but that's not the driver of our behavior. The driver is to speak up and have others speak up and to have fun, to look for ways to have fun.
For sure. So the next question I have here, you've answered a lot of, I think, bits and pieces, parts of this question, but I'll ask you anyway. One of your biggest themes is to bring humanity back into business. How would you like to answer that? Just in addition to all other great things you've mentioned about values and principles.
I think you just look at your people as people. Don't talk about them as head count. They're not head count, they're people. Just start with that, and probably everything else will take care of itself.
Great. You also say that you're risk averse, but you mentioned that you experimented without fear of failure. How could that be? That's contradictory to me, Jay.
Well, it is a paradox.
Paradox.
One of the things, I've got a list of 26 paradoxes in the book, which is actually my favorite part. Just that list of 26 paradoxes. I think if you can reconcile in your mind these what seems to be irreconcilable things, you will go so much further ahead in life and not be so frustrated, because you'll realize both exist. For instance, just to give a personal example,
Please.
I am still sad about the death of my wife. It happened in 2002. It was 19 years ago. I'm still devastated by it, but I am joyous about my life. How can that be? It's because I'm both joyous and sad simultaneously. That's the key, is having two opposing ideas simultaneous. The same thing is true with risk. You need to experiment in order to evolve. You can't do that without taking chances. You can't get better without taking chances. Just don't take giant chances. I mean, at least for me, some people, they're going to put all their money on one number. And if it works, more power to you. You just made, I don't know, what's the odds on that, 40-1 or something? Mm-hmm. Great, congratulations. That's just too risky for me. I'm not going to do that. If I go to Las Vegas, I don't gamble. I was in Monte Carlo. I didn't gamble. I feel it makes me queasy just going in there, because I know the odds are stacked against me. When I do something, I want the odds in my favor. And that means I take a lot of little chances. Downside is very small, as I mentioned earlier in this discussion. And then I see what works. If it doesn't work, slough it off and keep going. So yeah, I'm risk averse, but I take a lot of little chances, and eventually they become big, big changes. It's like when you're driving to Austin and you're on 71 and you say, you know what? I don't see any cops around here.
Yeah, I do all the time. Right after we hit 71. That's the first thing that goes to my mind.
And now you're going really, really fast, and you pass this car, and then you look in your mirror and you go, wow, they're way back there. That's what happens in life. You take these little chances, then all of a sudden you look in the rearview mirror and you go, wow, look what we've done. I can't even think about all the times that I was walking around in our office, and we had close to 500 people at one time, and probably still do. I'm not there. Uh-huh. And I just looked around and said, I don't even know who half these people are. That's amazing. And look how much fun they're having. Look how they're living the values, and they're experimenting, and they're smiling, and they're animated. How awesome is that? And how did that even happen? It's like, there's all these people here that are doing this great job, and our numbers are so good. It's spectacular. So yeah, you can experiment without fear. You can be risk averse. You can be happy and sad, and you can see what the business you've made and be totally joyous about it. It's
not to sound cliche, but the more I talk to you and the more you talk about these paradoxes and other things, I think I understand what you mean by leading from the core.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
that's exactly what I mean.
So I think, like in the beginning, I mentioned you sound like your name sounds like Jerry Steinfeld. Are you related to Jerry Seinfeld?
Well, it's Seinfeld and I'm Steinfeld with a T.
Right, right.
No, but I'd be happy to have his fame. That would be nice. My brother went to New York once, and they thought he was Jerry Steinfeld because it was Bobby Steinfeld.
Right.
And Jerry and Jay actually seem pretty similar. And he got a pet in a New York hotel because they thought he was Jerry Seinfeld.
Right. No, I knew it was different.
I was on a trip recently. I think I don't know where that trip was, but people were just looking at me. And then you could see everybody was just looking at me like, and then finally somebody came over and they said, "You're famous, right?"
Well, you are.
I was Jerry Seinfeld. No,
you are famous.
No,
you're on Tinsley Park Talks.
Famous. No, I'm not that person. And they were very disappointed. Very disappointed.
You get that. I'm sure
I could just see them go, "Oh, you're nothing, really."
I'm sure you get that a lot. Maybe Jerry Seinfeld will watch this episode and will call you to talk about your book, or maybe even go on like one of it, his show, like where he drives around with a celebrity and just
drinking coffee. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, drinking coffee.
But I'm not a comedian, so
yeah. Well, no, you don't have to be a comedian. He did it with President Obama. He did it with some other celebrities. So Jerry Seinfeld, if you're listening, if you're watching this, there you go. I just gave you a great idea.
Let's do it.
Cool. So just to we probably have another 15 minutes if that works with you. Would ask, how do you grow a company, going back to the company stuff, into new areas without taking your eye off the core business? And I think that you had to think about that as you merged with Home Depot. How did you manage that? That's focus from core to
because when you're in a big company, you've got to hit your numbers. Well, any company, you hit your numbers. That's just what you do. That's table stakes.
Right.
Except when hitting your numbers means you are so tight in what you do that you're afraid to take chances and afraid to experiment without fear. You actually do fear because you fear getting fired. You fear that you're not going to hit your numbers and you're going to lose stature and you're not going to get the promotion. So when you have plan, I understand you need to hit it. What we did as we were experimenting and our profit numbers weren't as good as plan, we said, yeah, but if you took away all the experimental things we're doing, we're way above plan. But it was hard for the finance team to justify it because they're just looking at a spreadsheet and they're looking at variances on each line. But what we were able to do was pull out some of the larger projects that we were working with that were very ambiguous and very experimental onto a different budget. And doing that was it was freedom. And that's what I suggest people do. You try to take out of your budget those things that are more experimental, these things that are maybe adjacent projects, not core projects. The core things you iterate and you experiment. It's not like there's not creativity and experimentation on the core, but those things you know what to do. Those things are easily measured. When you go into ambiguous things, you have a plan, but you don't really know if it's going to work. You make assumptions. Most of the assumptions are going to be false. So you break that out. It's called an ambidextrous organization. And there are books on that called The Ambidextrous Organization. I reference it in the book. So if you need the information, just go to the book and you'll see it's in there. And what it's saying is you have a separate organization for big growth, ambidextrous, ambiguous projects. And then you iterate on the core separately and you have them distinct. And then you bridge it there's different ways to bridge it so that one is not just going off and seeing if they can do 3D printing in space while you're actually making doors. I mean, 3D printing in space when you're a door manufacturer.
Yeah, with Web 3.0, you never know.
It's very possible. Very possible. So that's the idea. Break it out. Have a Skunk Works project. We were actually a Skunk Works within Home Depot. Blinds.com was a Skunk Works division. And yet even we took a portion of our company and made it a Skunk Works within Blinds.com for all those projects where we would be moving into different product categories. All that stuff was done through a different division within Blinds.com. Separate P&L, separate budget allocation, capital allocation, separate org structure. Even the way they conducted meetings and the culture was different even than our culture, which we loved.
That's cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very thoughtful and mindful.
So one of the things that was great about building the company is when I started, I knew nothing. I was an accountant. I mean, I knew accounting. I was a CPA, so I knew that.
Right.
I didn't know how to lead a company. So as a result, my deficiency, my ignorance meant I had no bad habits because I'd never done any of this. And
Right.
if you have that learning mind,
Right.
where every time you come up with something new, you go, wow, I'm really bad at that. That's awesome, because now I have a chance to improve. And look how much greater this is going to be because I know nothing about it. And now I can take an unencumbered view where I'm unencumbered by past failures or past successes, where I'm just starting with a clean sheet of paper. And everybody is. And if you do that,
Yep.
you're apt to be able to grow a lot faster.
That's a brilliant, brilliant point. That I talk about ego a lot, just in general. That's ego. You got to remove that ego, neurotic ego. Good ego is good, but the neurotic ego is the bad one. And knowing that you don't know it all and you can always learn is the way to be. The moment you think you figured it all out, that's the death of it.
Yeah. When you think you know everything, you then
Right.
know nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things I tell students is, and this is going to be another paradox. So I don't know if you like the paradox discussion.
Love it.
Or not.
Bring it on.
What I tell people is, you never know enough when you start, but knowing that you don't know enough is enough.
Right.
Because then you're going to know that you have to learn.
Nice. I know you have a website. Did you put any one of these quotes up there? Are these your quotes?
No,
You
there's a really handy place to get these quotes. That's in my book, Lead from the Core.
Okay.
All that wisdom that we're talking about,
yeah,
it's all
all in there. Okay, got it.
It's really a philosophical book as much as it is a technical and strategic on how to build a business. It's how to think. And all this, that section on paradox is maybe my favorite chapter.
Awesome. Yeah, I have to pick up the book. I full disclosure, I didn't buy it. I read bits and pieces of it for what you shared with me and the principles, etc. But I have a question from Tinsley Park's intern from a New York university. Her name is Cordelia Dang. She asked, how can other small businesses continue to beat larger companies like Amazon?
Well, what is your compelling advantage that you have over Amazon? You're not going to be able to beat Amazon at a whole lot, but is there something that distinguishes you? For us, it wasn't just our culture. I mean, the root of it, if you did the 5 whys, where you get down to, let's say, how were you able to do that? Well, I did it because of this. And eventually it is the culture. But one thing that differentiates us from Amazon and from really a lot of our competitors is our contact center. We didn't call it a contact center. We called it a customer engagement center. This is where people were on the phone and answering emails and live chat. We spent a lot of time with them, helping them understand how to solve customer problems. And when you buy hard to buy products that are complex, I don't care how good your technology is, and ours was spectacular, it still wasn't enough for these kinds of products. So what we did was we trained people, and we didn't even put them on the phone for 2 months while we were not just teaching them about the product, which is actually the easiest part, but teaching them how to be consultative salespeople, how to be an active listener, how to ask open-ended questions, and how to follow up with good questions, so that what you were able to do is determine what do they really need, not what do they think they want. And by uncovering what their needs are, you can then supply them with the solution. And if you compensate people for providing not just a sale, but the right sale, and that was part of the thing I was talking about with our compensation program, where there was quality built into how much people got paid. And if they provided the wrong solution, they could get paid nothing, even if they made a sale. So by compensating, incentivize people and training them, we had this distinct capability that is just not part of Amazon's model. There is about no people getting involved in it. And this is, if you need us, we're there. And we love talking to you on the phone, because we will help you do it in a assertive way without being aggressive, in a way that where you will feel respected, where you will feel honored, where you will feel like, wow, I bought from blinds.com and this was surprisingly fun. This was surprisingly easy. And I made the right choice by going to blinds.com. I feel like I got the right product and I wasn't pressured into it. That's a great buying experience. And that's what we were able to do, is to distinguish us with our CEC, Customer Engagement Center, by having that capability. I think you have to find something that distinguishes you.
Definitely. And again, very respectful, leading from the core, paying attention to hands-on, mindful interactions with your customers, caring for them, all those things. Excellent. I've got room for just 2 quick questions.
Okay.
It's up to you, however long you need to answer them. The first question is, what is your biggest motivator? And how do you define success?
Well, the first question is not going to take long to answer. My first motivation, really, when you get down to it, is death. It's what can I really do before I die? How much impact, how much significance, how much consequence can I do? What am I capable of doing? And I could die tomorrow, and I want to find out now. I don't want to wait. So it's time, because of the deaths of my mother and wife. The second question is not so sad, not so macabre. My definition of success is being in the process of getting better and improving everybody around me getting better. It's not achieving something. It's being in the process of improving. So when you find out there's something wrong, or you have a weakness, a flaw, your response to that is, awesome. Now there's something else I can get good at.
Right.
Or you say, awesome, I've now discovered something that before was a blind spot. I'm so glad I found that out. And you know what? I will never be good at that. Or I could be, maybe, but I don't want to be. So I'm going to hire somebody. So the more things you find out that are wrong, the quicker you can solve it, either by learning about it or hiring somebody else who most likely is going to do way better than you at it, than you could. How many things can you do anyway? Respect is also about delegation and allowing other people to do work rather than you micromanaging everything. So if you're in the process of getting better, and that's success, you can be successful every day. You can be successful multiple times during the day because you figured out a new way to say something, or you found something else that you did an experiment and you got better, or you helped somebody else discover a way that they could get better. That's success.
Wow. Okay. Well, guys, you heard it from the legend himself, Jay Steinfeld. Make sure to get his book on Amazon and all the usual places you can find his book. It's a Wall Street Journal's bestseller, Lead from the Core: The 4 Principles of Profit and Prosperity. With that, Mr. Steinfeld, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Najeeb, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Take care.